In China, rush hour driving is very congested. Usually in the same direction of traffic, as long as the next lane is a little faster, someone will change lanes and jump the queue. In fact, he probably doesn't want to change to the turning lane. He just wants to catch up with a little bit of time. He will change between different lanes regardless of the safety of others. This is what we often call lane cutting. When many novices encounter this kind of lane cutting in the driving school, they are willing to give way. But the more they indulge in this kind of lane cutting, the more cars jump in the queue in front of you. You drive slower and slower, and finally, as a result, the car behind you can't help honking the horn desperately, and overtake you, or even brutally jam in front of you, trying to use this reckless behavior to tell you that a novice like you had better take a bus and not drive. He acts like it was your fault. You know driving slow is not your fault. The lane cutter should be the culprit. When bad behavior is not restrained, it will continue to spread. Since it is better to take shortcuts, those who follow the rules become outcasts. So people often say that driving in China without lane cutting is like driving without steering. We all know that lane cutting is not good, and we want to try our best to prevent this bad manner from spreading. When driving in China, how can you avoid being cut in? Many international students have gained a driver's license overseas, and drive a lot from time to time. But after arriving in China, they dare not drive on the road and always get angry horns. Theoretically, an overseas driver's license can be used to drive in China, but it is rare to see foreigners driving on Chinese roads. In this video, let's talk about one of the hidden rules of driving in China, lane cutting. Lane cutting is a forced lane change. So how is lane change restricted in Chinese traffic rules? It is stipulated in Chinese traffic safety law that if there are more than 2 lanes in the same direction, the motor vehicles that change lanes shall not affect other lane users. In other words, the lane changer gives way to the car going straight. Cars going straight have the right to choose not to slow down for you. If a lane changer caused a collision, he should take full accident liability, no matter if the indicator is on or off. It is wrong to say that cars that use indicators have the right to change lanes. We must know that indicators are just the language between vehicles. So when determining the responsibility for the accident, whether the indicator is on or off will not affect the result of the judgment. How can the lane cutter be able to cut in when there is no obvious chance? In fact, lane cutting is more a psychological battle than a driving behavior. The cutter usually looks for a relatively cautious and conservative car to cut, especially the novice on the road, who is not sure about the distance between the cars and often leaves enough distance with the front car to deal with the possible sudden braking, which gives the habitual cutter enough space to play his game. Usually, the lane cutter will speed up to maneuver his car to some position in front of yours and then gradually deviate his lane to your side, or even drive on the line, forcing you to give way. Instinctively, people choose to slow down to avoid a collision. When he sees you slowing down, he knows he wins, and speeds up and merges into your lane, leaving you angriness and try to control your temper to let it not ruin your day. Here is another scenario where lane cutters usually play. Still, there is not enough space, but the habitual cutter cannot help to cut in. How did he do it? Usually, this happens when there is a traffic jam or the speed of the cars is relatively slow. When the cutter is a little bit in front of you, he will quickly turn around and insert his car head obliquely in front of your car. At this time, you only have 2 choices. Continue to drive, a collision will happen, although you know that you don't have to pay for the ticket. Or slow down to let him in. Most people will choose to be patient just to stay away from trouble. Does the horn work? Of course not. The lane cutter will ignore this kind of noise and drive dashingly in front of you as if to show off their victory. In this short period of the psychological game, the innocent one chose to compromise. The lane cutter took advantage of the mentality that everyone was afraid of trouble and won the games again and again. As time goes by, People who have always been cut and have gradually learned how to play this game, so the phenomenon of lane cutting has become more and more common on the road. So in China, how can we prevent driving from being jumped in by others? First of all, we should be familiar with the traffic rules, that is, the cars that change lanes should give way. It is a lane changer, not a straight driving one's responsibility to judge the possibility to merge. Some lane cutters will do other irregularities during merging, such as crossing solid lines, which also shows who will pay for the ticket at last. It is necessary to be more sure that you are not responsible for the potential traffic accident. Psychologically, confidence must be dominant. Secondly, it is necessary to control the distance between you and your front car. When following the traffic flow, do not be too far away from your front car. Although in China, the traffic regulations do not specify the safe distance to follow the car, people usually do not dare to drive too close to the car in front, which makes them not feel safe in dangerous situations. Practice your skills of following a car gradually. As your skill increases, you will find that the following gap is gradually getting shorter and shorter, and the speed control is consistent with the front car. If you find a potential cutter behind you, you can say sorry confidently. No, not this time. It's easy to tell the difference between a jammed car and a normal lane change car. If a car is changing lanes back and forth in traffic, he must be a cutter. But if he is approaching an intersection or a highway exit with a turn signal on and a slowing down speed, probably, he really needs to change lanes. For courtesy, if it's safe, we still need to give the way. Although this kind of comedy is not common in China, it's not too bad that you will find one after a few cars at last. Some lane cutter masters will try to tilt to your side while driving forward, giving you a sense of pressure. In fact, he wants to test you or force you to let them cut in. It just so happens that you are determined not to spoil him this time. You have to speed up properly and do your best to keep up with the front car. If the cutter has already crossed the line and encroached on your lane, you should always be aware that you have the right to drive in your lane. So you should hide a little bit to the left or right, but not too much, still stay in your own lane, and continue to accelerate to follow the car in front. Of course, this is a game between masters, who have a good awareness of the edge position of the car. After the first round, the skilled cutter will know that you are not easy to mess with. Probably, he won't be that firm this time. You should be careful if the cutter does not gradually approach your lane but relatively quickly cuts in, which gives you no time to do any more operation but brake to avoid a collision. Here are two cases. One is that in the process of lane cutting, you try to turn to the other side to avoid danger, and unfortunately hits the normal driving car in the other lane, then you are probably going to face a fine. Because you become the one who changes lanes in the accident. So in this case, it is better to step on the brake than to hit the direction in a hurry. This conditioned reflex needs time to practice. We novices should also carefully use steering during emergencies. In case of danger, the priority is to brake, slow down and observe. The other extreme case is that the lane cutter is testing you, and you don't want to let him in. But you hesitate for a second and accelerate too late when he has finished merging. His car has completely entered your lane, and you just hit the rear of his car. At this time you will be judged to be fully liable. Because the cutter has become the normal driving car in your lane, and you hit the back of his car, which will be considered a rear-end collision. Police will determine the liability according to the position of the car body at the scene of the accident. Generally, the action before does not take into account, unless you can prove that it is not your fault, which will cost a lot of time and money. So, not a good choice. In China, lane cutting happens everywhere, every day. People are getting used to this kind of environment with no comedy. You may often drive with a turn signal on for minutes and still cannot change lanes. So you have to detour, go the wrong way, or even get a ticket. If you want to change lanes in China, we need to know where we can't change lanes. First of all, you cannot change lanes across the solid line. Most people only comply with rules where there are traffic cameras. Generally, the lane lines will become solid when near the traffic lights or near the highway exits. So plan your route in advance. When the navigation prompts you to turn at the next intersection, change lanes aside as soon as possible before too late. Don't challenge the car that follows the front very closely. They are often the masters of the lane cutting game. If you really need to merge in rush hour, you have to demonstrate you are not a lane cutter. Turn on your indicator, and slowly move a little to the lane you want to go, but not too much. Slow down appropriately, use the deviation of the car body to tell the car behind you your intention, and then observe whether the car behind you has let you. If it speeds up, it shows that his attitude is more resolute and you have to give up changing lanes decisively. Return to your lane and continue to slow down, waiting for the next opportunity. Generally, after 5 cars at most, maybe there should be a gentleman that gives way to you. However, if you only use the indicator, and do not make an obvious offset car movement or slow down to inform the back car of your intention to change lanes, then the following car will probably ignore your turning signal, because many people are relatively relaxed when driving straightly. Sometimes it's hard to notice that the indicator next to you is on, or just thought it was forgotten to turn off. When you are changing lanes, if another car was found to be changing into the same lane, and he did not give up the action of merging, then you have to give up decisively. There is usually a long solid line at the exit of the highway, where changing lanes is not allowed, and there are usually traffic cameras nearby. If you find that you are driving in the wrong lane and have missed the best opportunity to change lanes, you should give up doing that, drive out from the next exit and then detour back. Changing lanes in a hurry at a high-speed exit is too dangerous. You should change lanes at least 2 kilometers ahead. When approaching the exit, if you find that you have gone wrong, don't push yourself too much. Safety is much more important than time. Traffic regulations in different countries are not the same, but the pursuit of safe driving in a civilized environment is our common goal. The lax enforcement of the law in China's transportation system, the prevalence of malicious queue jumping in the whole society, and not enough attention to etiquette education have caused this kind of chaos in China. Just like the lane cutting phenomenon, queue jumping is actually very common in China. What do you think caused it? How to deal with malicious lane cutting? On what other occasions do bad habits like queue jumping exist in China? Do you like this kind of life, with some kind of busyness and some kind of chaos? Leave your comment down below. Don't forget to subscribe. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.